Hi, I'm Grace Harris, and I am the base teacher at Robert L. Blaine Middle School, and you are currently in my guest bedroom, which is also my sewing room in my home, and I am going to show you how to make the 7th grade sewing project, which is a string sports bag. All right, the first thing that I did, you can see, is I have taken 2 pieces of fabric. I used 2 fat quarters. A fat quarter is slightly more than a 1/4 yard of fabric that's already been pre-cut. You can buy those at Walmart for about $1 each. But I've taken 2 fat quarters and I made sure that they were the same size. I cut them to make sure they were the same size, nice and straight. And by the time I got that done, this particular fabric then was 18 by 21 inches. Both pieces of fabric were 18 by 21 inches, okay? And as you can see, I took, like almost always when we sew, I took the 2 pretty sides and I put them together and lined them up nice and neat. After I was done with that, I measured. First of all, you want to make sure that your sports bag does run vertically. You want it, long ways up and down, okay? So then what I did from the top, I measured down 2.5 inches and I put a pin on both sides. And then what I did is I sewed a double seam down each one of those sides. And I know this is going to be a little hard to see in this light with this fabric and the white thread that I use, but maybe you can see. But there are actually 2 seams going right down through here. The first seam, I lined my fabric up with the edge of the presser foot of my sewing machine, and I sewed all the way down to the bottom, clear down to the very bottom. Now when I first started sewing, and at the very end of the line, the seam, I did a little bit of reverse to make sure that my seams are going to be nice and strong. Then when I went back to do the second seam, and you'll see this on the set of printed directions I'm also going to upload, I put that first seam right underneath the right-hand side, the right-hand part of my presser foot, so that I probably have, I don't know, it's not quite 1/2 inch, I don't think, but about a half, a little short, a little less, maybe 3/8 of an inch difference between the distance between my 2 seams. But the second seam, again, I started 2.5 inches down. I sewed, did a little reverse at the beginning. I tried to be very careful and keep it all nice and straight and even, and keep that first seam right under that presser foot, and did a little reverse stitch at the bottom, okay? And I did that on both sides. It's going to make our bag doubly strong. Now, it's really important that you complete both of those side seams before you do the bottom seams at all. They've got to be all the way down to the bottom and reinforced. Then what you're going to do with your bottom seams, okay, to create your bottom seam, you're going to then measure over 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches from that second seam that you did. And you're going to mark it with a pin, straight pin, and you're going to do that on both sides. Again, that's 1.5 inches measured from that second seam, the innermost seam, okay? And you mark that with a pin, and you're going to do just what you did with the side seams. You're going to do 1 seam straight across here where you keep the line of the fabric in line with the side of the presser foot. And then the second seam, you're going to keep that first seam right under the right-hand side, the right-hand piece of your presser foot. So again, you've got about a 3/8 inch difference between those 2 seams. Okay. At that point, you can then, of course, get all your pins out because they're just going to be in your way. I'm just going to pin them right here. Okay. And I really like this project for 7th graders. We've had a first go around. We had a few glitches we run into, and hopefully I've sorted those problems out, especially with this video. But it's a fairly simple project in the fact that you're only going to have 8 seams. That's all the sewing that you do with this project is you have 8 straight seams that you have to sew. And I've just shown you 6 of them. 2, 4, 6. All right. So now after I've done this, the next thing I want to do is I want to turn my project right side out. Okay. Right side out. And I really want to try to push those seam edges out as much as I can. Gives your bag a nice crisp line to it. And where I have these holes in the bottom, I'm just going to kind of tuck that down for right now so that it all lines up with the rest of the seam I've sewn. Those are actually the holes in the bottom of the bag where we're going to be tucking the shoulder strap seams up underneath. So that's what those are for. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a quick kind of press with my iron. And here in a few minutes when I readjust my laptop so I can show you what I'm talking about for this next step, you're going to see that I just have kind of made a homemade ironing board here in on a desk in my guest room. But learn to be flexible. Okay, now while I'm ironing this down, these side seams, I also want to kind of keep them folded over so that they're in line with the rest of the seams that I'm ironing down. Okay. Over here, and fold those down a little bit. Keep those nice and ironed. Right. I'll go over. Okay, now the next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the top pocket, I guess you could call it, where we're going to run our cord through, okay, where we're going to be running some cording through. So it works best if you do that from the right, having the right side out like I have here. Now, hopefully you can see. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift. I should have about 2.5 inches right here from that's where I measure, where I didn't sew. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn over this fabric, and I want to keep these ends where I've folded over to keep in line with the side seams. Keep those folded over. But I'm going to fold this over towards what's going to be the inside of the bag by just 1/2 inch. Just by 1/2 inch. That's all you need. About 1/2 inch. You don't have to measure it, but you know, you should be pretty good at estimating about 1/2 inch. And I'm going to iron that down really well. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, so now I've got about another inch left here, or I'm sorry, about another 2 inches left here. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this down just till it's in line with where that opening is. Do you see how I'm doing that? It's just, so basically what I'm going to have is I'm going to have about an inch little tube through which I'm going to string my cording. But right now I'm just going to fold it till it basically, the ends that I've already ironed down, the edge that I've already ironed down is going to be in line with that where the 2.5 inch opening was. And I'm going to take a pin, which might take a couple pins, and I'm going to pin that. And I want to pin it on the inside because here in a few minutes I'm going to turn it inside out when I do my sewing. So now you can see, I'm going to go ahead and iron this down now. This is really important that you really keep this stuff nice and straight and iron really carefully. It'll give you a lot of problems later on. Okay. Now, see, there's still some play in that. There's still a little bit of room. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do those same steps over on this side. Okay. I'm going to keep my side seams folded where they were. And then I'm going to turn this up by about 1/2 inch. I'm going to give it a really good steam iron to get a nice sharp crease in there. Okay. And again, now I'm going to fold it so the top where that seam is going to butt up against right where that 2.5 inch side seams are now. And I'm going to put a couple of pins. Again, I'm going to be pinning from the inside. And I'm just pinning those pieces together. You see, I'm not pinning it down flat to the project, but just pinning this so that I can then lay it down. And again, a nice run under the iron. Okay, now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move everything over where my sewing machine is. Please be patient.